Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓 and today we are going to discuss on various laws related to child abuse. As Guwahati has recently witnessed a horrific case on child abuse, so it's very important to know about various child protection rights regarding the punishment of child abuse. So what are the laws of Child Protection Act? What are the steps initiated by the government for child abuse? And not only this, what are the provisions available for reporting of child abuse? Well, to discuss on all these, I have with me advocate from Guwahati High Court, Ms. Suman Das, joining me live in the studio. So, welcome to Northeast Live, Ms. Das.
Thank you.
Yes, so first of all, tell our viewers about child abuse. What is it actually, and are there different kinds of, different types of child abuse, Ms. Das?
Yes. So, first of all, to understand child abuse, we need to understand that child abuse includes within it the term called child maltreatment or child endangerment. So, child abuse basically consists of the physical abuse meted out to them, the sexual abuse, the neglect meted out to them, or the emotional abuse that a parent or a caregiver or a person who is in responsibility of the child is giving out to that particular child. So now if you are asking about the kinds of child abuse or the types of child abuse, broadly to understand that there are 4 types of child abuse. The first would be physical abuse.
Right.
The second would be sexual abuse. The third would be emotional abuse, and the fourth would be neglect.
Okay.
When we talk about physical abuse, it's mostly the physical harm or the act of commission of that physical harm on the child. Sexual abuse means using the child for sexual gratification, or by committing some sorts of sexual harassment or sexual exploitative act on the child.
Okay.
When it comes to emotional abuse, it means that the caregiver or the parent or the person in responsibility is not giving a healthy environment, such as by restricting, say, the child's movement, by ridiculing the child, by scolding the child, by torturing the child mentally, but it does not include any form of physical harm. And when we speak about neglect, it means that the parent or the caregiver is, although have all the means to provide for the children, but is not providing for the children. Say, the child is not taken care of, the child's health is not taken care of, and things of that sort.
So yes, Ms. Das, now what kind of child abuse are predominantly seen in India, if you talk in general?
So generally, predominantly, we see in India, culturally, if we are to understand it, child in India, if we see that the parents in India, they believe in resorting to some sort of beating to discipline their child.
Right.
So predominantly there is a lot of physical abuse that is happening in India.
It's quite common. You know, a parent can, can't a parent like beat his child or something like that?
The use of corporal punishment as a form of deterrent for a child has been seen that it failed. It has failed, and in the long run, when a child grows into an adult, some sort of anxiety, depression, anger issues, and emotional built-up is prevalent in those children who has been meted out a lot of physical abuse. So therefore, this kind of corporal punishment has been banned even in schools today. If you take Assam also, in Assam also it has been banned. In Delhi it has been banned. That because of that, and secondly, we as in India, it is a culturally accepted concept, but that concept to this date does not hold good.
So yes, so Ms. Das, my next question to you, what are the legal measures to prevent child abuse? So it's very important to know nowadays.
So historically, the concept of child sexual abuse has been hidden in India. So there was no such discussion going on. There was no such legislation that came into place to determine that a child has been abused. So after a lot of deliberation, the Ministry of Women and Child Development who has been spearheading this entire project along with a lot of NGOs, they have come up with various legislations to help ensure that the child is protected. Amongst those legislations, they have brought about changes in the Indian Penal Code. They brought about the Juvenile Justice Act. They have brought the Prevention of Children from Sexual Abuses Act, and over and above that, the Ministry of Women and Child Development, they have also created a statutory body called as the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR, and it is the nodal body which looks after the protection of the children.
Yeah.
Over and above that, there are autonomous bodies in all districts in the entire country called as the Child Welfare Committee. They are to ensure that the children of the particular area is safe. So, the Ministry of Women and Child Development has come up with several such legislations and they have spearheaded to ensure that the children in India are protected.
Yes. Now, most importantly, how can one identify and report child abuse?
Oh, that is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
So, most of the child abuse goes hidden because incidentally almost most of the physical abuse that happens in the family itself, and especially by the parents, which is very scary, because there was a report which came out, which the Ministry of Women and Child Development brought out in 2007 itself, stated that almost more than 80% of such physical abuse happens in the hands of parents itself. So, I will break this down in 3 parts. First of all, we need to identify the signs of physical abuse. Whenever a child undergoes physical abuse, there will be change in his character. For example, there will be frequent injuries on the body of the child, and there will be unexplained bruises. The child will wear clothes to cover up those bruises. Say on a very hot day, the child is wearing full sleeve clothes. So, that is there. Then secondly, the child will always be on an alert mode. They will be reluctant to go out and do any physical activities. So, these are the kind of things that gives a hint that the child might be suffering from physical abuse.
Right.
Over and above that, the child might, if you are going to touch the child might flinch. There might be sudden movement. There might be discomfort on behalf of the child. So, it will give you an idea that there might have been an incident of physical abuse. Coming on to the next point, how to determine that whether the child has undergone a sexual abuse. So, the child might have problem sitting or standing. That is one thing that we need to find out. Secondly, the child might avoid one particular person at all cost. Thirdly, the child might have problem might to run away from the family or home. And the most dangerous of all is that the child might have an STD or a pregnancy if the child is below 14 years of age. And thirdly, coming to the concept of neglect, the child might not be in a very hygienic state. The child might be suffering from a disease for a prolonged period of time and the parents have neglected it. That also amounts to the abuse.
Okay. So, is there any helpline number to report child abuse? I'm sure there is, but for the viewers of Northeast Live, please tell, is there any helpline number, and what is the first step that anyone can report about child abuse? So,
the helpline number that is there is 1098. It is a national 24-hour helpline number. It's an emergency number. Any adult or any child who wants to report a child abuse case can call on this number. It is a project under the Ministry of Women and Child Development under the Government of India. Even today it is functioning. It is there available in Assam as well. So, you can approach this number, you can call this helpline number anytime you feel the need to approach this number.
Alright, so first of all, if someone is witnessing any child abuse on any child, so he or she can directly call at 1098. So, it's a 24/7 toll-free number?
Yes, it is a 24/7 toll-free number. It is an emergency number.
Alright. So, now talking about, adoption process, Ms. Das. So, what are the laws regarding adoption of a child, and what is the role of the Central Adoption Resource Authority? Tell us about that as well.
So, the concept of adoption is not new in India. It has been going on for many years. Now, to give it a concise and crisp form, initially there was a Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956 who governed adoptions for the Hindus, but there was a need for a comprehensive statutory body, for a statutory legislation to give rise to adoptions in a very cohesive manner. So, therefore, the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 came up with the concept of adoption, wherein it has been stated that all adoptions shall be done only as per the provisions of this act and the adoption regulations framed by the authority. And here authority means the Central Adoption Resource Authority, which is there under section 68. Now, the Central Adoption Research Authority, it's a statutory body of the Ministry of Women and Child Development of the Government of India, and it is there for monitoring all adoption of Indian children happening in India and outside of India. So, it lays down proper guidelines. It has its own recognized adoption agencies from where you can go ahead and adopt.
All right, Ms. Das. So, viewers, now it's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere, because right after the break, I'll discuss on what are the steps initiated by the government for child abuse. So, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Special broadcast, and today we are discussing on various laws regarding child abuse. So today we have with us Ms. Suman Das, advocate from Guwahati High Court. So Ms. Das, yes, so what are the steps initiated by the government for child abuse? Tell us about that.
So the government of India has done its best possible way to protect the children of this country. Okay. The government, apart from bringing in changes in the statutory laws that are already there, the government has also ensured that the society itself has an idea and changes its perspective and outlook towards the way they treat children. Okay. Starting with, the government of India has come up with the idea of the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao concept, which is there, which gives a girl child access to survival, safety and education, and it is at the same time trying to fight the regressive mindset that people have towards a girl child. It is fighting female feticide and things like that. So this is one way how the government is changing the percept and taking measures to change the society as a whole. Secondly, the government has also come up with another good scheme, that is the Operation Muskaan. Right. So now Operation Muskaan is a special initiative by the Union Home Ministry, wherein it organizes, rescues, rehabilitates children who are pushed into, say, trafficking, then they are ill-treated by the parents and the like. They also regularly work with the state police machineries, and they sensitizes the state police machineries on how to handle cases, say cases that come under POCSO. And they also ensures that the missing children who are being abducted for trafficking are found and rehabilitated. Thirdly, there's a scheme called as the Integrated Child Protection Scheme. So this is aimed at building a protective environment for children under difficult circumstances through the government civil society partnership. Then after that, there is another scheme called the 𝗟𝗓𝗓, and it is a comprehensive scheme for prevention of trafficking and rescue, rehabilitation, reintegration and repatriation of victims of trafficking of commercial sexual exploitations.
Right. And now talking about the laws, Ms. Das, well, what are the laws of Child Protection Act?
Okay. So there are many laws for the protection of children. So first of all, we have to start understanding the concept from the constitution itself. Okay. Because a child is also a citizen of this country. Like every citizen, he has the child has the right to life, right to equality, right to being protected. So apart from the basic rights that the child has, the child also has a right under Article 21A that provides right to free and compulsory elementary education to children who are from the age group say 6 to 14. Then there is Article 24A, which secures that a child will not be employed in any hazardous employment, and up to the say age of 14. Apart from that, now we will come to the statutory laws that protect the child. So the first law that we have to see is the Indian Penal Code. It says that under section 75, the code provides for the punishment of people who commits any form of cruelty on the child, and section 76, it provides for punishment for abetment of suicide of a child. Then there is section 317, which deals with abandonment of a child who is below the age of 12 years of age, and here the punishment is imprisonment for up to 7 years. Then we have section 366A, which says that if you are inducing any minor girl to have sexual intercourse with another person, that would be punishable for up to 10 years along with fine. Furthermore, we also have section 372 and section 373 of the Act, which says that, which penalizes actually selling or buying minor girls for prostitution or for illicit intercourse, and the punishment therein is up to 10 years of age. Above all these, we also have Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act, which prohibits employing a child in any sort of labour establishment. Then we have the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1987, which makes it illegal to procure, transport or hire a person for the purpose of sexual exploitation or prostitution. Then we have the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. It specifically states that you cannot make a child go through marriage, and if you do that, it will be an offence. And here the definition, here the minor person is considered 18 in case of a girl and 21 in case of a man. And then we have the right to free and compulsory education. Then another very important amendment came up after the 2013 criminal amendments, that is Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, which primarily has two parts. One is it deals with the treatment of underage offenders, and thereafter it also deals with adoption of children, like we previously discussed, that is 𝗟𝗓. Okay. Then most importantly, we have the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. So this act was enacted actually to address and or prevent harassment, exploitation, sexual assault, abuse, pornography and immoral acts which involves children. So under this act, the sexual abuse of a child is defined as any act that involves physical contact with a child and causes this child to be in a state of sexual arousal or stimulation. And it also includes not just penetrative but non-penetrative assault as well. And here the punishment of under POCSO is up to 20 years or more.
All right. So, Ms. Das, you have told us about the various laws of Child Protection Act. Now, talking about the POCSO Act. So, tell us about the POCSO Act 2012.
So, the POCSO Act 2012 is not a gender-specific act.
Okay.
So, any child, here it is important to understand here the definition of child is any person who is below 18 years of age. So, irrespective of a gender, be it a male child or a female child, will come under POCSO Act. Okay. Thereafter, it defines different forms of sexual harassment or abuse that is done on a child. It starts with it starts from a simple touch to the showing the child actually explicit images, to touching the child, to penetrative and non-penetrative intercourse. All these things are included in this. So, it's a very exhaustive act, and it has also come into place to change the way the judiciary has an outlook towards a victim under POCSO Act. So, now what happens if I talk about the punishment under this particular act? So, there is strict punishment for the perpetrators.
Yes.
So, the punishment for sexual assault on a child under the age of 12 years of age is imprisonment for a minimum of 20 years of age. So that is a very high punishment considering the entire criminal jurisprudence in India. It may, if a child is say in between 12 to 18 years, the punishment is once again minimum 10 years of age, but the judiciary has its discretion, and if the crime is such that it is very heinous, then the punishment can also extend up to life imprisonment. So this is for the first time in India, the government has recognized the need for a different law, to figure out that child sexual perpetrators are caught and then they are brought to justice. Furthermore, today in the age of digital age, we see that a lot of sexual violence happens online as well on a child. So we have section 14 of the POCSO Act 2012, which criminalizes the use of child, which criminalizes children pornography in short. In this case, if you are using a child or children for pornographic purpose, then the punishment that will be there is for at least 5 years of jail term. And in case of second conviction, this punishment can extend up to 7 years. Secondly, section 15 of this act also prohibits storing or possessing child pornography for transmitting or propagating or displaying and distribution. So what is important is that this act also makes it mandatory for anybody to report, for anybody who has come to knowledge that there is that child abuse is happening, that sexual abuse is happening. It makes it mandatory for that person to report it to the government, to the authorities. So if you have knowledge of it and you're not reporting, there can be imprisonment for up to 6 months or fine. So over and above that, it has also revolutionized the way the judiciary is going to treat a victim. So there will be video conferencing, there will be different rooms for witness statements and all these things.
So Ms. Das, now talking about the statistics, please tell us briefly about the statistics in Assam about child abuse.
So coming to the statistics, there was a study conducted by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2007, if I'm correct. So in 2007, as per that study, there was three different sections for child abuse that was considered. The first section was physical abuse, the second was sexual abuse, and the third one was neglect. So in the first category, it has been shockingly, it has come to knowledge that almost 69% of children are abused physically at some form or the other. Amongst those 69%, 54% were boys. And over and above that, what was shocking even for me, as per the report, was that 88.6% of that physical abuse was done by parents, which was very shocking for me. So over and above that, the report also highlighted a few states where the reporting of such physical abuse was high, and those states are Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Delhi and Assam. And coming to sexual abuse, it has come to light that 53.22% reported that they have been sexually assaulted by some form of the other, of which 21.9% had severe sexual assaults, and of which incidentally 50% of the victims stated that it was committed on them by person whom they trust or somebody who was from their family, which is very shocking even for me. And coming to emotional abuse and girl-child neglect, mostly the focus was also on a girl-child neglect. Most of the girl-child, they stated that they wanted to be boys, because emotionally, if we see as a child abuse, child abuse as an emotional abuse as a child abuse, it's the girls who have to undergo a lot of taunts and jibs for not adhering to a particular societal idea of being a girl child. So they wish that, almost more than half of them wish that they were born as a boy. Over and above that, in 83% of these emotional abuse cases, this emotional abuse was caused by parents.
All right. So, Ms. Das, so I hope this will be very beneficial for all our viewers. And yes, there is a 24/7 helpline number 1098. One can directly call at this number and report child abuse. So, thank you so much, Ms. Suman Das, for joining us this afternoon. So, that's all we have in this special broadcast. Thanks for watching and keep watching Northeast Live.